At number 4, we have Nicky Scarfo, Philadelphia.
Nicodemo Scarfo was the bloodiest mob boss since Al Capone. Killing for reasons beyond the mafia's traditional code of business. He murdered to intimidate and to calm his own paranoia over threats to his throne, such as his own capo, Salvatore Testa. During his reign, Scarfo ordered 24 mob hits. Authorities believe it was Little Nicky's bloodthirsty style that led to his downfall. When he turned on his own family members, they turned to the law.
In 1954, Nicky Scarfo was inducted to the Philadelphia crime family by boss Joseph Ida at a ceremony in New Jersey. He was sentenced to 6 months or manslaughter in 1963. He stabbed a longshoreman. After his release, he was sent to Atlantic City, New Jersey to oversee operations. Longtime boss Angelo Bruno was killed in 1980. He was set up by his consigliere, Antonio Capo Negro. Bruno was replaced by Phil Testa, who was murdered shortly after. He was killed by a nail bomb under his porch. Nicky Scarface became the boss. Nicky Scarf had a murderous reputation as boss. Every criminal organization in Philly paid him street tax. Anybody who didn't agree was quickly murdered for refusing. He was very paranoid and murdered many mafia members around him, which led to his downfall. At number 3, we have Victor Amuso, the Lucchese family. Victor Amuso became an enforcer for the Profesi family's crime boss Joey Gallo in Brooklyn during the 1960s. Victor Amuse was the Gallo brothers' top hitman when they declared war on the Profesi family. After Joey Gallo was murdered in 1972, he joined the Lucchese family under Christopher Fornari. He became a made man in 1977. In the late 1980s, he became boss of the Lucchese family. He was described as a deadly don by Assistant United States Attorney Charles Rose. Amuso's reign was considered the bloodiest periods in American mafia history during the 1980s and 1990s. His former underboss Anthony Casso turned informer against him in 1994. At number 2, we have Albert Anastasia, Gambino family.
Albert was a really mean guy. He was not pleasant at all. There was no times at all that this guy was pleasant. He says he's an old school gangster, and he did a lot of things he wasn't supposed to do. Big argument when he went after a civilian guy, got killed the guy. He says that he wasn't well liked. He was feared, but he wasn't well liked.
The committee says Anastasia has double-crossed his underworld bosses and has been ordered to get out of town or be killed. Newsmen try to interview Anastasia and meet with a rough reception.
In the 1920s, Anastasia gained a fearsome reputation in Brooklyn. He allied himself with Giuseppe Masseria, a powerful mafia leader in Brooklyn. After Masseria's murder, Anastasia aligned himself with Lucky Luciano. He committed many murders for his bosses and was rewarded Luciano. He was appointed to head of the famous Murder Inc. He became underboss under Vincent Mangano in the 1950s. Anastasia took control of the family by allegedly killing his boss. He was an old-school don, meaning there was no rules of who to be murdered. He killed civilians, police officers, and anyone that angered him. Anastasia was so out of control that the other bosses decided it was time for him to go. He was murdered in 1957. At number 1, we have Al Capone. As a teenager, Al Capone was involved in many gangs. He started off with the 40 Thieves and Bowery Boys. He then joined the Brooklyn Rippers and then the powerful 5 Points gang in Lower Manhattan. In 1919, at the age of 20, he left New York for Chicago. He was invited by crime boss James Colosimo to Chicago as an enforcer. Al Capone was the right-hand man of Torrio, head of the Italian organized crime family in Chicago. Al Capone took control of the family when Torrio retired in the 1920s. This family became known as the Chicago Outfit. He is highly regarded as the most ruthless crime boss in American history. He bombed many businesses, killing over 100 people in the process. He was also responsible for the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. He was considered a true boss of bosses. The American Mafia is a criminal organization has first emerged in the early 1900s and has since spread to every major city in America. The Mafia's goal is to make money through illegal activities, and it uses violence and intimidation to get what it wants.